ప్రభు కీర్తన స్టార్ట్ చేయొచ్చు కదా?
స్టార్ట్ చేయొచ్చు కదా.
Krishna
कीर्तन की जय, प्रभुपाद की जय। तो आरती में कीर्तन के
You missed Prabhu all the time. Might be 7:37. The race is all 7.
Let's go. Let's go.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare
Sing the next. Also, so it's 8 o'clock. So last 15 minutes we will spend sharing the reflections from what you hear when speaking. If you can just remember one or 2 points that you want to recount. So that way what happens? What you speak, it stays with you. What you hear, it may not stay with you. So when you assimilate something and when it comes out of your assimilation, then it becomes absorbed even quickly and it stays longer. So as you listen, just meditate on 1 or 2 points that you can share, that would that you can reflect on, that would benefit you and also help others. So that's the main benefit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayam mudiraye
Tato jayamudiraye
nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu
Nashaprayeshu abhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam bhagavata sevaya
bhagavati uttama shloke
Bhagavati uttama shloke
bhaktir bhavati naishtike
Bhaktir bhavati naistiki
nama sankirtanam yasya
Nama sankirtanam yasya
sarva papa pranashanam
Sarva papa pranashanam
pranamo dukkha shamanaha
Namo dukkha shamanaha
namami harim param
Tam namami Hari Param
nama sankirtanam yasya
Nama sankirtanam yasya
sarva papa pranashanam
Sarva papa pranashanam
pranamo dukkha shamanaha
Namo dukkha shamanaha
harim tam pranamamyarim param
Tam pranamam Hari Param
nama sankirtanam yasya
Nama sankirtanam yasya
sarva papa pranashanam
Sarva papa pranashanam
pranamo dukkha shamanaha
Namo dukkha shamanaha
pranami harim param
Tam pranami Hari Param
Hare Krishna. So we saw the first three verses. That was an introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are the first three verses that that are the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the first verse talks about what Bhagavatam covers. So Janmadi Asya Yataha. So Bhagavatam talks about exclusively about Lord Krishna, who is responsible for Janma Adi. Janma means of the creation. Adi means sustenance and annihilation. Asya, of this material universe. So Bhagavatam contains information about Lord Krishna. That is the first verse. And it talks about who Lord Krishna is. The second verse also says, what else is in Bhagavatam? Bhagavate, what else is there? It says, Dharma projita kaitava atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam. So it says, Parama Dharma. The highest Dharma is given in Bhagavatam. So the third verse that we discussed last week, it talks about Bhagavatam is like rasam of a fruit, phalam of what? Nigama kalpatarur. So there is the Vedic scriptures, they are compared to a tree, taru, kalpataru. Kalpataru is one which gives you what you want, whatever is your desire. Now, a tree's most essential part, the part that everyone wants the tree to be there for, is what? Phalam, the fruit. There are other things that are usable of a tree, but the essence, that most usable part is what? Phalam, fruit. So that fruit again has many things that you can again filter out or discard. Like for example, an orange, if you take the outer skin, you have to take out. Then inside there is another thin layer that you have to remove before you really taste. Then between the what you call the individual in the orange, the individual
In this slice or that?
yeah, there's a particular word, but yeah, I'll remember. So there is again thin layers of skin between those two, those individual pieces also. But all these you remove, right? and you get to the inside of the fruit. But that inside of the fruit also isn't the real taste. The real taste is where the juice is. So it says Bhagavatam is that rasam, that juice. Because Vedic scriptures are humongous, it's very difficult for us to see what is required, what is the essential part, and what helps us. So Bhagavatam has filtered out everything and then is giving you rasam. So that rasam is what this 18,000 shlokas in Bhagavatam represent. Now, having talked about the introductory verses, now the real setting of the scene starts, the real Bhagavatam. So, where Bhagavatam started, the place where Bhagavatam took place. So that description is given, and then the whole setting of where Bhagavatam was heard as being given to us is given starting in the verse number 4 for the next several verses. So if you have the text open, let's recite it together. Naimishe nimishakshetre Vishaya Shaunakadayah Satvam Swargaya Lokaya Sahasratamamasata. So it's talking about the place where the Srimad Bhagavatam as given in this Purana was recited. So we all know the story. The first time Srimad Bhagavatam was recited was on the banks of river Yamuna, recited by Shukadev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And Suta Goswami was there in the assembly of the sages that were present when this recitation was happening. So Suta Goswami has heard Srimad Bhagavatam, so he travels to Naimisharanya. So Naimisharanya is again a place in Madhya Pradesh, I believe.
Lucknow.
It's in Uttar Pradesh.
Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh.
Uttar Pradesh. Okay. So always the place has its own importance. For example, when Kurukshetra war happened, the first shloka in Bhagavad Gita talks about Kurukshetre, Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre. So Kurukshetra was a very auspicious place. Similarly, Naimisharanya is also such an auspicious place, and Srila Prabhupada in the purport gives 2 reasons why there is auspiciousness associated with Naimisharanya. The first Srila Prabhupada talks about when Lord Brahma created this universe, he imagined a wheel that could actually expand throughout the universe, and the hub of this wheel was placed in this place. So this is kind of the center of the universe, so to speak. And that is why it has that energy that helps one spiritually develop, progress. So that is why Tirtha Kshetras are important. Any holy places, the energy in those places, it helps one spiritually progress, get inclined towards. So second reason that Srila Prabhupada quotes about is this is a place when spiritual activity or sacrifices are carried out. The energy of this place is as such, the demonic forces and the effect of those demonic forces on the universe is reduced. Srila Prabhupada mentions about that. So the place name is mentioned in the scripture to give also authenticity. There are people that call scriptures, especially the Vedic scriptures, as just myth, as some figment of imagination, just like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. These are imaginations that people have that has come out in the form of some books. But Puranas are not like that. So to emphasize that, the place name is also always given. So now, the importance again of the place name is you have something that you can corroborate even during these times. And these are eternal truths that are talked about. And the name itself, Purana and Itihasa. So we have 18 Mahapuranas and 18 Upapuranas. Bhagavatam is the 18th Purana. And we have Ramayana and Mahabharata as Itihasas. So then there are Vedas. Vedas constitute again of many different parts, and Upanishads are also part of Vedas. Now all this is the body of wisdom that we have in Sanatana Dharma. Now, when we are talking about Puranas, it is not fables. Pura anayati iti Purana. It says Pura in the past, anayati, that which has happened, is Purana. Itihasa, it means iti, does, asa, happened. That is why it is Itihasa. Now, one difference, subtle difference there is Itihasa is in the immediate past, compared to Puranas that happened much in the past. Like if you look at Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Vamana, Narsimha, all these Puranas, they happened, and it's even difficult to trace the dates back. At least Ramayana and Mahabharata, looking at the Panchanga, people have traced the exact dates when it happened, especially Mahabharata, where there is a mention about the Kurukshetra war happening between two solar eclipses. And these two solar eclipses happened so close that it's very rare for that occurrence to happen. So using that, they track the dates of when Mahabharata happened. So to emphasize, because when we go outside, there are a lot of people that have this this thinking that Puranas and Itihasas are the Vedic scriptures in totality. They are just figments of imagination. They are fables. They are not. So that is why this is important. Naimishe, nimisha, animisha kshetre. So the Purana itself gives us evidence about that. So there are these sages headed by Shaunaka. Rishayaha, Shaunakadayaha, Satram, Swargaya Lokaya, Sahasra, Samam Asata. So these sages were assembled in Naimisharanya. It is said, Naimisharanya, just like we know Nalanda University, it had scholars that would come from various parts of the world, and it's in the recorded history, that used to come seeking knowledge because Nalanda University was the center of the knowledge. Similarly, in the Dwapara Yuga, when the Bhagavata Puranam recitation happened, this Naimisharanya was a place where there was a huge university, and this was headed by Shaunaka Rishi. Shaunaka was the chancellor of this university. And these rishis, they gathered there. What were they doing? So that is explained. Satram Swargaya Lokaya. So they were gathered there to perform sacrifice. So again, in Vedic scriptures, many of these words are overloaded. Satram is sacrifice, yajna is sacrifice. So one difference that is talked about is Satram compared to yajna is a much longer duration. The process of gathering to perform yajnas for a much longer duration is called Satram. Now, what was the purpose of this sacrifice? It is said it's Sahasra Samam, which is 1,000 years Satra. It was 1,000 years sacrifice that under the leadership of Shaunaka, these rishis were carrying out in Naimisharanya. What were they doing this for? It is said, Swargaya Lokaya. Now, this is also very important. Every piece of information or every word in Srimad Bhagavatam is so overloaded that if you delve deep into it, you can connect it to other aspects that help us spiritually advance. So they say Satram, the performance of yajna for the purpose of what? Swargaya, Lokaya. Two parts, two words. Swargaya. Prabhupada translates it as for Vishnu. Vishnu's one other name is Swarga. And Lokaya. Lokaya means for the people in general. So Rishi, in effect, Rishayaha, the Rishi, one other meaning of Rishi is Rishi Nanam. Rishi is the root word. The root word for Rishi also means the one that has Gnana. Now, this is our Sanatana Dharma. These Rishis, they don't do anything for their own benefit. They actually do everything for the benefit of Lokaya, for the benefit of everyone. That is why in Sanatana Dharma, there is no conflict when it comes to people trying to take what belongs to others. And that is inbuilt into Sanatana Dharma. And that is why you don't see any kings or any huge kingdoms in India going and overtaking, going on and conquering other lands. You've never seen that, because that is not the purpose. The purpose that they had was to spend their entire life in such a way that would benefit them and that would benefit others for the same purpose. The purpose, again, of human form of life, it's Ante Narayana Smriti. We have to keep going back to this. What is the purpose? Why are we here? We are here so that we can go back. How can we go back? We can go back only when we remember Krishna at the end. Did anyone read the forward that Ratipriya did, like in the group today, about this Mataji? What's her name? Okay, very beautiful read. Yeah, if you get a time, it's in the Bensalem Bhakti Vriksha. Read about it, and it's easy to discount this as somebody making up, but it's not. What's the name of that Mataji? Ananda Vrindavan Mataji. She explains her experience about how she left her body and the struggle she had when she left her body. She lives in Mayapur, and for 23 years Mataji has been serving. She's been constantly chanting. But then when the time came for her to leave the body, and she says she left the body, it was so difficult for her to remember Krishna, which is the reason why we chant, which is the reason why we do all this. So she explains so neatly, very clearly about the struggle she had to remember Krishna, but somehow, Krishna has his own plans. By mercy of Krishna, she got back into the body again. And she is recounting her experience, amazing experience. So we might think it is easy. It is not. It takes many lifetimes if we are not serious enough. So the whole purpose of human form is to remember Krishna when we leave the body, right? So these rishis, they are living for that purpose in Naimisharanya. So what are they doing? They are doing satram, sacrifice for what? Swargaya, for remembering Krishna, for the satisfaction of Krishna. So again, this is the only way we can remember Krishna. How we can remember Krishna? Throughout our life, if we engage our activities in such a way that we do those activities for the pleasure of Krishna, we can remember Krishna. And then by doing this, they're also setting examples for others, lokaya, for others living in this world. Like this Mataji's example, it is so heart-touching. It shakes you up wanting to become serious in your sadhana, right? And this is what these rishis are doing here. So their sacrifice is to please Krishna. Only when we please Krishna throughout our life, every activity of our life, if we dovetail it for Krishna's pleasure. So it is said in the 9th chapter, what is this verse? Yat karoshi yadashnashi yad juhoshi dadasya yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushvam madarpanam. So very important verse. So it says, whatever you do, yat karoshi, yad ashnashi, what you eat, yat karoshi yad ashnashi, yad juhoshi, what you do as a sacrifice. Dadasya, whatever you give as an offering, as dana. Tat kurushva madarpanam. You do it as an offering to me. Krishna doesn't need it. If we do, whether we don't do, it doesn't affect Krishna. But the important part is if we do it, our consciousness is trained so that our mind goes back to Krishna. Like this Mataji, she had various deficiencies and she couldn't even, she had muscle weakness. She could not even chant. When the nurse reminded her, don't cry, she was breathing in pain. She couldn't speak, she was crying. So this nurse leaned over and she said, don't cry, chant Hare Krishna. So this Mataji tried chanting, but her mind, the mind is so powerful. Now, mind did not go to Krishna. It didn't chant Krishna's name, but then mind goes back to only those things that subconsciously you attained or you are attached to. So she remembered, her mind went back to how her mother was lovingly caring for her. Because in the subconscious mind, that is what her mind took her to. That is what she was attached to, right? So only throughout our life, if we consciously try to dedicate our activities to Krishna, subconsciously it goes into our mind. So at the time of death, subconsciously we can remember. So there is this story of a saint in Madhva Sampradaya that constantly was taking shelter of Bhagavatam throughout his life. Every second in his life, he would only recite Bhagavatam. He would only contemplate Bhagavatam. He would only recite Bhagavatam. He would only remember Bhagavatam. So it is said, after his passing away, for his Asti Visarjana, so they burn the body and then they collect the ashes and the bones. When they took the bones to the river to Asti Visarjana, they could hear Bhagavatam being recited coming from the bones of this person. So that is what one has to, that is how the consciousness should be built up if one has to go back. It says Astigata Prana. Our consciousness, our entire life has to be devised in such a way that we remember Krishna in every minute. So in the next verse in ninth chapter Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, if we do like this, yat karoshi, yat ashnashi, yat juhoshi, dadasya, if we devise our life in this way, what happens? It says, Shubha Ashubha Palair Evam Mokshase Karma Bandhanai. It says from the Karma Bandhana. Karma Bandha is the reason why we take different bodies. Because of our Karma Bandha, we are bound. That means after we leave our body, we take another body based on our karma. So how do we get rid of that Karma Bandha? It says, only if you act in this way, thinking of Krishna always, we can get rid of all the karma. So one has to act. Bhagavad Gita also talks about Ignartat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. So if we act, one other name of Krishna is Igna. Like here Svarga, Svargaya, we are saying a name of Vishnu. Krishna's one other name is Yagnaya. Yagna. So it says Yagnartat karmanaha. Your activities, karma, it should be done for Igna Artha, for pleasing Krishna. Anyatra, if you don't do, lokoyam, in this loka, karma bandhanaha, you're bound. So we cannot get rid of our cycle, birth and death cycle. So the first verse that we talked about today, it talks about the importance of the kshetra where this happened, Naimisharanya. And then it also says the other importance of this kshetra, Animisha. One other name of Supreme Lord is Nimisha. So Nimisha is the eyelids. Actually, from what we know, Nimisha is a unit of time, right? Now that unit of time is the time that's taken for the eyelid to close. That is the time amount that the eyelid takes to close. That is Nimisha, right? And here it is said, Animisha Kshetre. That Kshetra, that place is Animisha Kshetra. Vishnu's one other name is Animisha, means he never closes his eyelids. And actually all the devatas have this. Devatas do not blink. And blinking is considered a sign of ignorance. Why? For example, when we close our eyes when we are sleeping because of ignorance, right? Now, Vishnu is Animisha. His eyes never close. And it indicates that he doesn't have ignorance, he doesn't have Ajnana, right? Now, Animisha is Vishnu, and Vishnu resides in this place. That is why it is called Animisha Kshetra. Actually, last time when we were talking about, we read as recounting Nala Damayanti story, right? In that story, demigods come actually to want to get married to Damayanti, Indra, Varuna, and Yama. They come and then they are dressed up and take the same form as Nala in the Swayamvara. So they say, Damayanti, you pick who your Nala is because you love Nala so much. And Damayanti, being such a wonderful devotee, she first prays to the Supreme Lord that help me actually find who the real Nala is. And then from within the heart, Supreme Lord gives her intelligence. So she observes these three things. One she observes is only one person among these four is sweating. Devatas do not sweat. Second thing that she observes is only one person out of the three, they are touching the ground. Devatas do not touch the ground. And the last thing she observes is only one person is blinking his eyelids. Devatas do not blink their eyelids. So that is how she figures out who Nala is, and then she puts the garland, and Devatas are also pleased with her. So that is the importance of the Kshetra. So Nimisha Kshetra, the Naimisharanya is very special, number one. Number two, Rishis, these Shaunaka, headed by Shaunaka, they are here performing 1,000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of Vishnu and for the spiritual advancement of others. So let's look at the next verse. Please repeat. Ta ekada tu munayaha.
Ta ekada tu munaya.
Pratar huta hutagnayah.
Pratar huta hutagnayah.
Satkritam sutamasinam.
Satkritam sutamasina.
Aprachur idamadara.
Aprachur idamadara.
So Suta Goswami comes to this assembly in Naimisharanya. So they welcome him with respect. It says Satkritam. So this is very important. Prabhupada highlights this. If one wants to seriously get knowledge from these sages, from these spiritually advanced devotees, one has to learn how to offer respects. And that is what here this verse is talking about. Even these rishis, they were great saints, they understood the position of Suta Goswami. So Adara Satkritam, first they did what they did. They first offered due respects and received Suta Goswami. And then Sutam Asinam, they offered him a suitable place to sit down. Very important. And then Prabhupada talks about how the Vyasasana, now what are the qualities of a person that can accept Vyasasana. Srila Prabhupada describes, which include the 4 regulative principles that Srila Prabhupada gave all of us. No gambling, no illicit sex, no meat eating, and no intoxication. These are the 4 qualifications that one has to have and strictly follow in order to accept Vyasasana. And these are the qualities that were there in Suta Goswami. And then the last part is Pracha Idam Adarat. So they asked, they inquired after offering due respects, due regards. So before you inquire from an exalted person, how you have to actually reciprocate or treat that person. So knowledge is as such, unlike what happens in the days, in these days. So these days, the way education system, the westernized education system has devised, all these things may not make sense, right? But in olden times, and it holds true even today, in olden times, when you serve a spiritual master, even without sitting and then learning anything from spiritual master, at the end, if the spiritual master is pleased with your service, he would just bless you and you would get all the knowledge, even without really doing what we are doing today in the so-called education system. So that is how potent the blessings of these exalted devotees are, spiritual personalities are. So we see here, Suta Goswami was offered a seat. He was received with due respect. And then Suta Goswami was inquired, was asked some of these questions that we will see that will follow. But then with the understanding that they understood the exalted position of Suta Goswami. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, going back to Srimad Bhagavatham again, what is the mood of a person that wants to receive knowledge? So, what is that verse? Thank you. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upatekshanti te gnanam daninas tattvadarshinaha. So, tattvadarshi is one who has seen the tattva, who has understood the absolute truth. So that tattvadarshi, if he wants to give you gnana, you cannot challenge the person. You have to be humble and submissive. Now, these rishis, they are exhibiting those qualities here. So very important to understand. So let's look at the next verse, text number 6. Please repeat. Tvaya khalu puranani.
Tvaya khalu puranani.
Se itihasani chanaga.
Ityasani chanaga.
Akhyatani apyaditani.
Akhyatani apyaditani.
Dharma shastrani yanyuta.
Dharma shastrani anyuta.
So Suta Goswami is seated at the Vyasasana. Now they are requesting him, they are inquiring from him. But now, what is the qualification of Suta Goswami? Who Suta Goswami is? Why is he exalted? That is being given in the next couple of verses. It says, Suta Goswami, you are Adhitani and then Akhyatani. Adhitani means Dhi is intelligence. Adhita means one who has understood. So he is adhitani. He has understood what he has understood. First is Puranani, Itihasani, Dharma Shastrani. So he is an expert in these three things: Purana, Itihasa, Dharma Shastra. Now, why is an expert in these three things? That is said in the word anagha. Anagha means sinless. Agha means sin. Anagha means sinless. So only if one is sinless, he will be able to actually understand tattva as it is. So very important point that Srimad Bhagavatam is making here. So because Suta Goswami was anagha, he is understood all these things, Purana, Itihasa and Dharma Shastras, without any doubts. Now, not only that, he is Akhyatani, means he also can explain this without any doubts. He can remove all the doubts. That is also why, because he is Anagha. So this is one of the very important qualification that one has to understand in spiritual life. Etu antagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam drudhavrata. Krishna says, you can bhajante mam, you can worship me. Drudhavrataha, you can be fixed in worshipping me only when you don't, when all your sins have come to an end. When you are not performing any sins, then only you will be able to fix in worshipping me. Krishna is saying that in Bhagavad Gita, and that is why it is said when somebody takes initiation, it is said all his previous sins are completely taken by the spiritual master. So that is why it is said it's a new birth. Because you are sinless, and if you follow the regulative principles, then you will be able to understand scriptures. When you understand scriptures, what happens? You develop attachment to it. When you develop attachment to scriptures, that means you are attracted naturally to the spirit, the Supreme Lord. When you are attracted naturally to the Supreme Lord, your mind is always easy to go take shelter of the Supreme Lord. So this is why it is a cycle, and that is why Srila Prabhupada gave the regulative principles. And it has worked. If you see, most of Prabhupada's early disciples, they were hippies. They were involved in breaking all these four regulative principles. But all of them who were very sincere, they became pure devotees. And even today, there are so many of Prabhupada disciples that are spreading this holy names. So it's 6, what's the time now? 6:39, 6:40. So let's stop today. We can discuss, share some reflections, and then we can continue. So text number 6, we stopped. We can continue from next week. I think after we discuss, Muktasanga Prabhu also has some discussions regarding our plans for the future. Where do we? Oh, okay. Questions? Yeah, are comments?
Can you just explain why we have to remember why we have to go to this?
Ankita, why do you have to remember Supreme Lord? For the young people, Hare Krishna. Let's hear from the young people.
Hare Krishna.
Ankita, what is it?
Hare.
Mataji's question is for the benefit of our younger generation that are here. She wanted an explanation of why we want to remember Krishna, especially at the time of leaving the body. Ankita. I'm putting her on the spot.
So that we can go back to Godhead and we don't have to give birth again.
You ask your mother if that is a good enough answer. Right. So I think I put Ankita on spot, but she was right on spot. So the human form of life, Prahlad Maharaj explains this. He says that human form of life is very rare because we have a added responsibility, and that is what we are seeing here sages doing. They weren't like, unlike us, they weren't going around working whole day and then earning. Unfortunately, the times are such, but fortunately, Prabhupada came and then gave us a formula how to apply it for the current times. So chanting, Prabhupada said, is the most important that would be our spiritual advancement for the most part depends on our chanting. So even with the kind of lifestyle that we are living, if one attaches himself to chanting, then one would be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. And as Krishna says in the 8th chapter, Yam vapi smaran bhavam teretya ante kalevaram tam eveti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. So whatever we remember or whatever we do in our daily activities, smaran bhavam yam va api, whatever we remember. So sada tad bhava bhavitaha. So that remembrance is only what is going to come to us at the time of death. So that is why chanting, especially in the morning times, helps one subconsciously train mind to go back to Krishna, and especially at the time of death, the mind actually gravitates towards Krishna, and that is the importance why we have to remember Krishna. It may be just theoretical, in the sense, a question about what is the real meaning of the human form of life. To even understand why we are here, why the universe exists. Is it real that at the time of death we have to remember Krishna to go back to the spiritual world? So all these can actually get clearer and clearer. The answers to this can get clearer and clearer when we start chanting. Srila Prabhupada always said, you have to fly your own plane. So one has to base their spiritual advancement on their own experience. No matter how much theory we read, how much we hear, there is nothing that strengthens our resolve to progress anything more than our experience. So we have to base it on our own experience. So using that experience, we can basically take steps. It's just like holding the rope and taking one step at a time to advance. Thank you, Mataji. Does it help? Okay. So let's share some reflections. Where do we want to start? Okay, we'll start with the person with the mic. Ankita, yeah. Anything that you can share that would help you and others with what you heard today?
I learned that it's really hard to think about like Krishna at the time of our death because we have so much going on then, and we think about what is most important to us in our whole life. So for that to happen, we have to practice our entire life and stay consistent.
Thank you, Akita. So abhyasa yogena, abhyasena vairagyena. Krishna says mind can be controlled by these two aspects, through constant practice and when you are constantly practicing, all your impurities are getting washed away. And then Vairagya comes. Vairagya means your attachment to those things that are not helpful for spiritual advancement, or your attachments to things other than Krishna, which are not helpful for one to progress. Abhyasena Vairagya. Thank you.
Krishna Prabhuji. When you're telling that sins, if we have sins, then we cannot get the essence. I didn't understand that part, but that was the one I felt like what I learned is the connection you mentioned, which I'm not able to repeat. If you can just help.
So, as long as one has sinful propensities, the past sins is one thing. Continuing that sinful propensity, what it does is it muddies the water. So, for example, you cannot see the contents on the bottom of a river, which is muddy. But when the river is flowing, when the water is clear, you can see what is at the bottom. So, scriptures, even though they are potent, they contain all the important information. They provide the information for how one should live the life and what is the goal. It doesn't touch the heart of a sinful person. Just like a mirror covered with dust, a person cannot see himself. So only when you clear the dust, you can clearly see your own self. So no matter what one does, if they do not see, they do not get the clarity, they won't have the faith. If they don't have the faith, they won't wholeheartedly follow our practice. So in order to follow our practice, one has to be fixed, drudha nishchaya. So for one to be fixed, they have to see clearly things as they are. Tattva. So in order to see things as they are, one has to get rid of the sins. It's a process.
We're all with sins now, right? We're all with the sins. That means we can't get the essence and we can't get to that stage.
Yeah. What it means is we do not see the truth as seen by those who are sinless. So for example, Brahma Samhita says, Santaha Sadeva Hridayeshu Vilokayati. Supreme Lord can be seen within the heart by those people who are sinless, those people that are self-realized. Krishna is in everyone's heart. Everyone knows. The scriptures talk about, but we cannot see Krishna within the heart, right? So what it means that if there are sins, we are not able to establish that connection clearly. But that doesn't stop one from making an effort to want to get to Krishna. So that option is available for everyone. And then that is the reason why scriptures are there. That is the reason why Krishna comes down and himself speaks Bhagavad Gita. That is the reason why Krishna sends his devotees, like Srila Prabhupada, to come give it to us. So if we accept that at the beginning, Adar Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Shanga, Bhajana Kriya. So then develop some faith, engage in the process, sins will gradually clear up, and then one will be able to see himself, Krishna. And that is what Prabhupada meant when he said you have to drive your own plane. To drive your own plane, you have to know how to drive, you have to know what is the goal, you have to see what is in front of you. If you cannot, then you will end up not reaching the goal. Thank you.
So it can go, come back.
I actually had the same question that my mom had and you were answering, but I think like in terms of reflection, definitely like when we're talking about why we have to, like why it's important to remember Krishna and feeding our body and all. To me, it was just like, when we take a test, right? If we study the day before, how much are we going to remember for the test? That's why we study before, weeks before for an exam. And to me, that is the same thing. So we chant early, we start early so that when the time does come, it's there. That was my way.
Hare Krishna. I wasn't here for most of the session, but what I took away was that it takes a lot of commitment to practice the worship. So you need to be willing to pray and to listen and to worship. And from that, you can get most of the benefits of practicing and worshiping in devotional service.
Krishna Prabhuji. As you mentioned, should develop love towards the spiritual growths, and naturally you develop love towards this Supreme Lord, and you can reach Supreme Abode.
Hare Krishna. I know you talked about refraining from sin, and obviously there's physical sin, but then also mental as well. And so the latter is much more difficult to overcome. So how does one do that, and how can one chant and not have that mental sin going on at the same time?
In Kali Yuga, there is a concession that is given by Shastras. So Kali Yuga, in the previous Yugas, mental sin had the same karma effect as performing the sin physically. But in Kali Yuga, there's a concession where mental skill, sin, it doesn't give you the same resulting karma, but then it doesn't mean that mental sin is good. It can make you it can take you off your path. So how does one overcome that? So the answer is again, especially in Kali Yuga, it is said, Kalo tad Hari Kirtana. So the holy names, they have the potency to actually clear this. And it's not just theory. Many people who have tried this, they have experienced. I have experienced myself. So as I said, if you really want to justify this statement, one has to actually try. And there have been many people that have tried this for like even a short time, and it's talking about what's this method? There was Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Kamal Krishna Goswami, a very powerful preacher. And Maharaj was preaching, Kamal Krishna Maharaj was preaching in Singapore. There was a person who stood up and he said, what is the guarantee that what you're saying about the holy names and everything is true? Maharaj said, you give 6 months, you chant, and then you come back and talk to me. If there is no effect, then we will see. So if one gives it a try, sincerely tries it, they themselves can feel the effect. So that will answer one's own questions. Does it help?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, I have a question. So, one way to go back to Krishna is to remember him, but the reason we came from the spiritual world is because we had some desire. So if we go back to Krishna and have desire, we'll come back, right?
Okay, yeah, before I answer, what's your reflection?
I took away that it takes a very high effort to remember Krishna, and you have to practice a lot before you actually can remember him at the time of death.
So Prabhupada answered this question many times. Prabhupada said in one of the answers, now you are here, just move back. Don't worry about coming back, right? But the real answer is, so there are many theories. The one that Srila Prabhupada always talked about is we were already in spiritual world. We are pure. Now, the way spiritual world is designed is there is no enjoyment independent of Krishna. One example that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam itself is Yatha Taror Mula Nishechanena Trupyanti Tat Skanda Bhujopa Shakha. It is said, when you water the root of a tree, the whole tree gets the nourishment. You don't have to individually water the leaves. Just like when you eat, you feed the stomach. Then your whole body gets the nourishment. So similarly, the way spiritual world is designed is Krishna is the only enjoyer. In our conditioned state, when we have impurities, we might think, why Krishna is the only enjoyer? What about my enjoyment, right? But the way it is understood is when Krishna is enjoying, we are all happy. One very close example we can give in the material universe is mother and child. If the child is happy, that makes the mother automatically happy. Mother doesn't crave, like say, if the child is eating chocolate, mother is already happy, right? Mother doesn't need the chocolate to get any more happiness, right? So there is some examples that are similar to that. So when Krishna is pleased, we are automatically pleased, right? Now, with that being the design, if somehow we got, Prabhupada always said that, don't worry about why we got this. This is one theory. We got into the mode of thinking, why Krishna is only enjoying? Why I cannot enjoy? So Krishna says, you want to enjoy independent of me, it means suffering. Don't do that. Just like Prabhupada always gave this example of father or mother keeps telling a child who is ignorant not to do things that would hurt the child. Prabhupada gave the example of how his son was going and trying to put a finger into the fan that was rotating, saying it would hurt you, don't do it. But then the child would never listen. So once the child put the hand, it hurted, the finger got hurt, child got hurt, and the child never went back to the fan, went near the fan. So Krishna is like that. Krishna tries to prevent us from wanting to enjoy independently and says don't go. But then because he is also a loving father and there is free will for the living entities, he says if you want to enjoy, I'll facilitate that. So that is the reason why this material world is created. So this material world is the only place where we can enjoy independent of Krishna. Prabhupada uses this word, lording it over material energy. What it means is, we think we are God. And that is why I want to use everything for my enjoyment. Right? Now, when we purify out of this, we go back. Now, your question is, what if we come back again? Prabhupada was asked the same question. So there are about 4 or 5 places in Bhagavad Gita that says, Yadgatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. So once you go back, you'll never come back. Bhagavad Gita says that. So a disciple of Prabhupada was asking, Prabhupada, it says you'll never come back again. And Prabhupada laughed slightly and he says, almost you'll never come back. So what it means is the Jivatma always has that free will component. Krishna doesn't force us. He doesn't force us to go back to him, or he doesn't force us to go away from him. On the other hand, he gives us enough knowledge in terms of scriptures to understand what happens when we go to him, what happens when we turn away from him. So a person that has purified himself, that goes back, if he develops again the same tendency to want to enjoy independently, he'll come back. But he doesn't, like the child who got hurt by touching the fan. The child never went back to the near the fan. So if we are intelligent enough, we'll never come back. Does it answer?
Thank you, Prabhu.
I have two questions. So my first question is, in Kali Yuga, is it like simpler to go to Krishna or in Satya Yuga?
Okay. So what's the reflection first?
That the first three Bhagavad Gita shlokas are very important.
Yeah, good. So that will stay with you for your whole life now. You cannot forget that, right? Right. So in Bhagavatam itself, it talks about this. Dhyate yad krute yad dhyate Vishnu. Tretaya ejato makai. Dvaparo paricharyayam kalotar harikirtana. So in Krita Yuga, the way to go back to Godhead was by performing meditation and thousands of years of meditation. Then in Treta Yuga, it was through sacrifices, 5 sacrifices. Then in Dwapara Yuga, it was through worship of deities. But in Kali Yuga, it is Hari Kirtana. And why? One is, it's very simple. You don't have to, for meditation, thousands of years, you have to have a suitable body, your mind has to be strong, you have to give up, your vairagya has to be strong, which we don't need, which we don't have. Actually, Bhagavatam talks about that in the next few verses. Now, in Treta Yuga, to perform sacrifices, it's not simple. There's a description of how Maharaj Yudhishthira performed the Rajasuya Yajna, and the amount of money that they needed, the resources that they needed, even Maharaj Yudhishthira did not have those resources. So he had to take help of Krishna, and Krishna takes them to Himalayas and then gives them a huge treasure that was hidden. So it's difficult. And Paricharyayam, Dwapara Paricharyayam. And to do deity worship, one has to follow strict rules, very difficult process to again follow. So, Kalau Tad Hari Kirtana. So, Hari Kirtan, it doesn't have any offenses that gives us ill effects. Like, for example, in Yajna, if you utter one swara different, you will have a very bad effect. Like we see the Chasara story. Instead of getting a son that could kill Indra, they get a son that gets killed by Indra by just variation of one swara. So it's simple, it's easy. Prabhupada said, if one follows this, it's guaranteed. Does it make sense?
Hare Krishna, bro. Hare Krishna, bro. My reflection is, I'm very much surprised to know, that sages, they are not only selfish, going to the forest and doing some tapasya, not for themselves, but they are doing it for a normal society also, because they know what is the ultimate good for society. What will be the action that will cause ultimate peace and prosperity to the society. That's why they go to forest and do the yajna, because as you explained, doing yajna is like pleasing Lord Vishnu and his devotee. And once Lord is pleased, like the tree example you mentioned, right? Once you plant, give water to the root, everything is become perfect. And that regard, we in this youth, we cannot do that. We cannot go to jungle and do the yajna like what you are explaining to my son. But here, by the grace of Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have the Nama Sankirtana Yajna, which is very easy to do. So by that yajna, we can purify ourselves, and ultimately it will definitely benefit to the society. Thank you. Hare.
Thank you, Subhabu. Thank you for the nice classes. It is like the mission is really, you already told us, this very auspicious place. And also they are so intelligent because they are doing for the jhana for the pleasure to Krishna or Vishnu. And also there is a like very good association of all of the sadhu sangha also there. This is my reflection. But I have one question to you. You told me that in the class in the middle, I say, and Prabhupada also said, you have to be serious. But in some places also, I see this Skandapura. There's a one thing is my Guru Maharaj already quoted there. If you are like, pull up the Jagannath string, you need to go to the Krishna Loka, you never come back. Like, this time, we are trying to, when we are going to the Rasatra, then we bring the people, sometimes, this might be Christian, Muslims, some other religions, because they don't understand. This time, I was in Atlantic City, one police is, was there in our period, parrot. I just tried to explain it. He said, yeah, really? Okay. I'll just pull up the string. He just pull up the string and he pursued the Jagannath also. The body Jagannath tree. These are the things. But then how we can just, understand the things, or how to realize these things.
Thank you, Rishi. So I think the reflection part about rishis being benevolent not only to their interest, but the interest of the whole society. This is the Sanatana Dharma. Actually, for the younger crowd, I think if you understand this, you will benefit from actually other people that blame Sanatana Dharma for not being benevolent. So Sanatana Dharma is always thinking about how everyone has to be happy. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, right? So that is what's indicated in each and every part of the compassion that's shown by these rishis. So coming to your question, now many scriptures, including Skanda Purana, Jagannath's Ratha, if you just pull the rope, just pulling it, you'll go back to the spiritual world, right? Now, scriptures talk about this. So one thing that scripture says, it says, Rochanartham ki phala shrutihi. So this is phala. So even in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says you read first canto, you get this phala, you read second canto, you get this phala. So in Shrutis, Rochanartham is phala given. Rochana means what? To develop interest, to generate interest. So just like a small baby, if the baby is not wanting to take the medicine because it's bitter, what mother does? Gives it with something sweet, right? That sweetness makes the baby take the medicine and it has the effect. So Shrutis give these as the phala, the benefit to make somebody get interested in it. Okay. Now it doesn't mean it doesn't have the effect. So, for example, a knife in the hand of a doctor has a different effect than a knife in the hand of a thief, right? Same way, the phala is true, but when it's done with the proper understanding and knowledge, that is why karmani, it has two words, karma and man. So karma is activity and man is mind. When mind is applied with proper understanding, then the whole phala will come. If the mind is not applied, little bit phala will still come, right? But it doesn't give you the entire phala. So the reason why phala is mentioned is only to get them started. Slowly when they start, the beginning is this. Next, something else interesting. Something Prabhupada said, just come and have prasadam. Why? That's interesting. When they come and have prasadam, they are talking to the devotees, they are taking darshan of the deities, they are hearing some Krishna Katha. Slowly they will have questions, slowly they will get answers. So eventually it will lead them to the perfection. So when a perfect person does this, like a surgeon with a scissor, he'll get the entire results. He'll get the phala of pulling them. But till that stage, it's not the complete phala.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the wonderful class. So I remember one thing regarding Naimisharanya. What's the benefit of, what's the importance of Naimisharanya? One thing is that Lord Brahma considered Naimisharanya as the heart of the disk, the central focal point of, if this entire sphere is considered as a universe, Naimisharanya is the center. So it's the hub of everything, of the universe. That's one reason. Number two, it is also a place where Lord Vishnu resides. That's why it is called Animeshwara, which is the place where Lord Vishnu resides, who never blinks. And thirdly, it is a holy place because all the sacrifices happen there. So it already has a lot of positive energy in there that supports other spiritual activities to progress. And another thing that I overall remember is how Sutta Goswami was so submissive, and all the Shaunak Adi Rishis. Sutta Goswami is not submissive, but the Shaunak Adi Rishis are so submissive in respecting a senior devotee like Sutta Goswami and be very upfront. They planned to come, they came to Naimisharanya to perform 1,000 years of sacrifice. However, when they saw Sutta Goswami, they stopped that activity and they instead came to his surrender and asked, and I know they will be asking more questions as we come forward. So they didn't say, okay, you come here, you sit down, we're going to continue our yagya. So they understood the importance of a person who is senior, importance of a person who can give us the spiritual knowledge, and how highly elevated he is, and what can they benefit, not for themselves, but also for the society at large. So that's what I get from this class today. Thank you, Prabhuji.
I was not here for the class group. I just came like last moment, and I heard you talking about how the human life is so rare. Like we have to advance the spiritual consciousness in this life, and there is no other way without doing the Harinam. Harinam is the best way to connect with Krishna and always remember Krishna. And by the end of the life, even we don't remember Krishna, then Krishna will help us remember him. That's all. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful session. In this session, first you were explaining how the place is very important, comparing it to how in Mahabharata we had Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra. In here it is Naimisharanya, and so it also tells what happened in this place. Initially it is considered as a middle of the universe, where all the rishis were performing yajnas for the benefit of the world. And also in the second verse, you mentioned how important it is to serve the rishis, or how important to serve someone that is very knowledge and our guru or acharya, like the way they used to perform, like respect and what they used to do. I think that's a lot of Prabhu. I missed in between.
Thank you very much. Yes, your from today's reflection, that's what I because this Mahabharat calculation was from beginning to solar eclipse. So we calculate like them. And also, how can we remember Krishna at the time of leaving is that's by not only by hearing, but we are by even when we are performing any duties, whatever duties we are responsible in doing, that when we have to think of Krishna, with detachment we have to do that whatever we are doing. And I also like that Sutta Goswami was inquiring questions to Sukadeva Goswami in great respect, like that. We have to hear it submissively and gain the knowledge from our spiritual master by hearing submissively and asking questions and implement that in our life. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In today's session, I learned about how being simple and not being focused on Krishna can deviate you, and how all that service doesn't really count if you're not focused and Krishna's not in your heart. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In today's lecture, I learned that in order to escape the cycle of death and rebirth, in your final moments in this body, you have to subconsciously remember Krishna. And in order to subconsciously remember Krishna, you must consciously serve Krishna within your lifetime in order to remember him within those final moments. Hare Krishna.
Kitirada Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I learned two things I learned today. So in Satya Yuga, liberation happens through the meditation, and in Treta Yuga through sacrifice, and Dwapara Yuga was deity worship, and then Kali Yuga is more Sankirtan or chant. And another thing I heard, the Devatas has a main 4 different qualities than human. One is their eyelids will not close, and their feet will not touch the ground, and they don't have the sweating. I missed the 4th. What is the 4th one?
Only 3.
Only 3.
Oh, only 3. Okay. So
you can add one.
I thought 4. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Ramachitrala Prabhu is contemplating on becoming a Devata. So he knows. Yeah, well, that's a natural progression. The devotees, Krishna chooses them to be his servants, serving as demigods. And that's one way of progressing towards Krishna. And one thing is whether or not anything that we do, if you do it for Krishna, Krishna remembers. It's like even if you want to steal from Krishna, that's okay. Stealing is wrong. But then if you steal from Krishna, there is this story where a thief wanted to go and he gets attracted to the jewels that Krishna has, and he wants to steal from Krishna, but then eventually he becomes a devotee. So you can do everything for Krishna, even our defects that we have, if we offer it to Krishna, Krishna accepts it. And anything that Krishna accepts, it doesn't become defect. Like Krishna became a thief. right? But Krishna is not thief, even though he was stealing, right? All the defects actually become auspicious when it's done by Krishna. So, like, you have to share your reflection.
Thank you, Prabhu. So many things here. First thing is, now going onwards, the verses, there are many verses coming up in Srimad Bhagavatam 4 onwards that they glorify Sutta Goswami. So this should be our practice. This is what I understood. My reflection is that this should be our practice. That means in order to get away or cleanse our sins, right? The best part is this practically we can all implement actually here. Whenever we meet somebody, try to glorify. That is the easiest way to get away from sins. Because the more you glorify, it is actually clearing your sins because you see only good part in others, right? You don't see bad part. So always hide bad part and glorify good part. That is what is happening here because they straight away didn't ask any questions actually. First they started glorifying Sutta Goswami, many verses. Okay, then they started asking questions. This is how the protocol should be. The etiquette is, real etiquette is that we have to glorify others before we get into the real subject matter. So that will cleanse our heart. That is my reflection. And also, as Shyam Prabhu mentioned that Krishna will never forget whatever we do. It's already in the Krishna's account. So there's wonderful, this is guaranteed by Krishna himself. Because I will never, because at the time of death, like he gave example that Mataji, she could never remember Krishna, right? But Krishna's mercy, she came back to the same body. So Krishna remembers, even though she couldn't remember, because death is so scary. Death is, it is said that at least 64,000 scorpions biting at a time. Can we take a pain of one scorpion? You can't. Recently, not recently, about 2 years back, I was bitten by a bee. And the pain was there for 2 weeks. Single bee. Even after applying ghee or whatever the remedies we can think of, but still the pain was there. One simple bee. Think about scorpion. Scorpion bite is so very painful. You can't even imagine. Other than pain, you can't imagine anything. Which scorpion bites you. So death is like 64,000 scorpions biting at the same time. Can you imagine? So after doing so much austerities or processes what we follow, right? Still at the time of death, if we don't remember, by whatsoever reason, because there are many cases that people go into coma, they meet accidents and sudden death will be there. So what is the stage, what is the status of them? So Krishna guarantees in this one verse actually, you know, if you can remember, if you can repeat, Yadi vatadi doshena matbhakta mam nachasmare aham smarami matbhakta nayani paramagatim. It says Yadi vatadi doshena, because at the time of death, because of so many difficulties, even if you cannot remember me, example like coma, whatever it is, right? But you have done so much austerity, so much Krishna Bhakta you are, but still at the time of death, because it's so painful, you cannot remember. Even though you don't remember, Yadi vatadi doshena madbhakta mam nachasmaret. Madbhakta, my devotee, nachasmaret, he cannot think, okay, because of so many difficulties. Don't worry, aham smarami madbhakta, I remember you. You don't remember me, I remember you. Not only remember you, aham smarami madbhakta nayami paramagatim, I give you highest, deliver you. That is very important. The example, Mataji's example we gave, right? That is very touching actually. So
That's why Krishna is so merciful.
yeah, Krishna is so merciful. All the whatever good things we do, it is accounted with Krishna. Whatever bad things we do, it is accounted with Yamraj. Yamraj. Yeah, so bad things are accounted, Yamraj accounted is there. Good thing, Krishna's account. Okay, so we have to be very careful. So that is the best part is I'm telling you, whenever we meet, even in satsangs, right? Always try to glorify others. Even to start with, it can be false glorification, that's fine. Right? But still you try to glorify, because if that becomes habit, right? Eventually you don't see any bad thing in anyone. That is the best part of a devotee. Para dukkha dukhi. If you see dukkha, you have to be dukkha. Can we do that? So let's practice that. Whenever we meet, at least 1 or 2 points, glorify others. Every time we meet. Exactly. Yugal Kishore Prabhu was there, right? You know Yugal Kishore Prabhu, he is the founder of Acharya Bensalem Bhakti Vriksha. So Yugal Kishore Prabhu had a separate one entire session where you have to glorify others. Everybody should glorify others. Why? Because it benefits us, not others. Until others take it as ego and then, I am great. No, not like that. No, you have to glorify others in order to purify yourself. So that is the best thing here. So Sutta Goswami will be glorified in subsequent slokas. Why? Because they have to get purified. That's my reflection. And I have a question. If we don't have time much, but it will be quick. So Itihasas, they are very recent, right? And Puranas like very old. But Mahabharata is Itihasa. After writing Mahabharata, he wrote Bhagavatam, which is Purana. How do you define that?
So out of 35, one was an exception. 18 Puranas, 17 were much older than the 2 Itihasas. So percentage-wise, there's one exception, which is.
Thank you.
Before we close, okay.
Every time, more chances that person will follow sooner. You feel better than that person will follow.
I didn't understand you. Yes.
If you keep glorifying a person often, keep on glorifying, the more chances that person will fall down sooner, and you will be elevated and that person will fall down.
Exactly. So that is why I said, if you glorify others, the person should also glorify others. Then he won't fall down. If he just takes the glorification and if he does not glorify others, he will fall down. Okay. So it formula applies to everyone. Not that one person keeps receiving, you glorify me, one day. No. If I glorify you, you glorify others. That person glorifies others. So we are all on the same platform so that we don't fall down. That is the formula. Okay.
Then I mean, this is, you cannot stop. This is like the Jare Deko Tare Ko Krishna Bole.
Yes, you cannot stop. So practically we have to follow this whenever. Don't talk negatives because everybody has negatives. Only talk positives. Glorify others whenever you get a chance. That benefits us. Is it practical?
Yes.
Everyone will try to implement?
But negative is not a glorified thing. Only positive things is glorified.
Yes, but no, don't highlight negatives. That's what I'm saying. Don't highlight negatives. Everybody has negatives.
Yeah.
Okay, this body means anarthas.
Correct.
But always glorify. Exactly like Sutta Goswami, the same scenario. Okay, thank you.
Nice.
Another 2 minutes, and then maybe we can just discuss about the like maybe we'll close in another 10 minutes. So 2 things I want to say before we close. First thing is the reflections that everyone is sharing. It's helping me. So also the whole idea is instead of just we two speaking, like one more person speaking, we have to get ourselves to a level where each one of us will be able to speak. So train yourself so that you will be able to give a class one day. It can be like, in the near future or sometime. But the idea should be, you should be prepared. The result, why it is important is, there's again one verse in the Bhagavatam, it says, Janma Labha Parapumsa Ante Narayana Smriti. So all our life we have to spend so that we can remember Krishna. Remember this one thing. You want to remember Krishna. The best way you can remember Krishna is by speaking about it. Because if you have to speak about Krishna for 30 minutes, you have to spend 2 hours trying to think about Krishna to what to speak. And that is the real benefit that you will get. So all of us should work towards getting to a place where you want to speak, give a class. Speak about Krishna, whatever you know. Nobody is here to judge. But the whole idea is you're benefiting by speaking about Krishna because it's something you remember Krishna. So remember, Ante Narayana Smriti. That is the only thing that we have to remember and live for. So, let's close.
Yeah, close.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. Jai. Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishvanebhyo Namo. Purushottam Adhikamas ki. Thank you, Shyam Prabhu. Big round of applause.
Really nice inclusion. You see, Krishna also not blinking.